Picture this. A massively delayed, incredibly over-budget presidential transport program suddenly turns around and produces a fully functional, highly secure aircraft in less than a year. How does that even happen? For decades, getting a new presidential jet has been this slow, grueling, highly methodical process. But recently, that timeline was completely fractured. A brand new aircraft emerged almost overnight, totally defying every standard expectation we have for military aviation acquisition. To really understand why this happened, we have to look at the absolute massive failure that preceded it. $1 billion. That is the staggering amount Boeing racked up in penalty charges on the original contract for the new presidential jets. The project was completely drowning in delays, and because of that, the White House was facing a desperate operational problem, one that required an immediate and very unconventional solution. Welcome back to Air Flight Space, where we explore aviation stories, investigations, and modern flight lessons. Today, we're digging into the unprecedented delivery of a new presidential jet. We are going to examine how an unexpected foreign asset completely bypassed the traditional defense pipeline, the massive security hurdles that had to be cleared, and what this astonishing 10-month sprint actually means for the future of military aviation. Let's get into it.
Now, to really grasp the stakes here, we need to talk about who actually operates these planes. It's the 89th Airlift Wing, based out of Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. And look, they aren't just running a VIP taxi service. This unit is tasked with moving the president, the vice president, and senior cabinet members. Their mission is absolutely critical. They ensure nuclear command and control and maintain the continuity of government during global crisis. When the president steps aboard, those heavily modified Boeing 747-200s officially become Air Force One.
But here's the problem. That legendary fleet is currently under immense pressure. At first, the standard maintenance schedule seemed normal enough for aging airframes, but investigators and maintainers started noticing an alarming escalation. The iconic VC-25A aircraft are suffering from extended, grueling heavy maintenance cycles. Honestly, they're simply wearing out. In fact, the White House had already begun retiring one of the jets. Its final presidential flight actually brought Donald Trump back from the G7 summit in France.
So where are the replacements? Well, they were supposed to be two standard VC-25Bs, which were born from a $4 billion deal struck with Boeing way back in 2018. But as we just discussed, that program stalled completely. Boeing now estimates they won't be able to deliver the first aircraft until 2028, and that created a massive, incredibly dangerous operational gap. The old planes are failing right now, and the new planes are still years away.
And this detail would later become the ultimate turning point in our story. Those massive delays and cost overruns attracted the personal ire of Donald Trump. Seeing this stalemate, the Qatari government stepped in with a highly unusual offer. In May 2025, the royal family actually gifted their own Boeing 747-8I business jet to the U.S. government as an interim solution. Now keep this specific aviation terminology in mind, because it's really vital for understanding the fleet's structure. The Air Force designated this converted Qatari jet as the VC-25B Bridge, and that nomenclature distinctly separates it from the two original, heavily delayed jets that Boeing is still building. It is quite literally a bridge, a stopgap measure just to ensure the commander-in-chief can continue to fly securely while they wait for those 2028 deliveries. But as you might guess, accepting a multi-million-dollar aircraft from a foreign government isn't exactly a standard aviation milestone. It naturally sparked some intense debate. Putting a foreign asset directly into the presidential fleet posed a significant question for a lot of people. Was this a brilliant, pragmatic solution to an aviation crisis, or did it just create a highly complex ethical dilemma? Let's look at the legal and financial friction this caused. Accepting a jet like this raised some really substantial questions regarding the emoluments clause of the U.S. Constitution, which outright forbids American officials from taking foreign gifts. Further complicating things, Donald Trump stated that the jet would eventually be donated to his future presidential library after his term ends. And on top of all that, the financial picture is still a bit clouded. The Pentagon has actually declined to disclose exactly how much money was spent to certify this aircraft for executive use.
But setting the ethics aside for a second, there was an immediate, glaring operational hazard. Putting the leader of the free world inside a previously owned, foreign-sourced aircraft triggered massive red flags across the intelligence community. And the primary fear was simple but terrifying: espionage. Had listening devices, tracking hardware, or any physical vulnerabilities been planted inside the jet before it was handed over?
To counter this threat, the Air Force had to literally tear into the aircraft systems. And this brilliantly illustrates how military aviation adapts to unconventional threats. The service implemented incredibly rigorous security requirements. They assembled an elite group of interagency experts to develop brand new benchmark protocols, specifically designed to detect and, if necessary, neutralize any potential technical hazards hidden within the airframe. Now, the Air Force has dismissed the espionage concerns, stating the aircraft is entirely secure, though they haven't publicly disclosed if any hazards were actually found during that sweep.
Secretary of the Air Force Troy Mike summarized the mission perfectly. He noted that while speed was absolutely essential, no risk was taken in security, safety, or mission communications. Keep this detail in mind because it became a key lesson for procurement teams going forward. You can dramatically accelerate an aviation timeline, but the baseline high standards of a presidential mission, those must remain absolute.
Okay, let's look at this timeline because it's honestly mind-boggling. The defense contractor L3 Harris was tasked with the conversion. They took custody of the Gifted jet in May 2025. Astonishingly, by May 2026, flight testing was already complete, and on June 19, 2026, the aircraft was officially delivered to Joint Base Andrews. They produced a highly secure presidential transport in just 10 months. In the world of defense contracting, speed like that is almost unheard of.
So how on earth did they move that fast? Well, here's why this matters and exactly how L3 Harris pulled it off. The Air Force revealed they minimally changed the existing head of state VIP interior left by the Qataris, which saved months of custom fabrication right off the bat. They adopted a super disciplined engineering approach, prioritizing only exact core communication capabilities. And to save even more time, they actively omitted what they called less commonly used mission sets that are planned for the future full-scale VC-25B models. They just stripped the requirements down to the absolute essentials.
Of course, having a shiny new plane ready is completely useless if you don't have pilots certified to fly it. Because the 747-8 is a very different beast from the older 747-200s, the Air Force had to get creative. Starting in October 2025, they leased an Atlas Air 747-8 freighter to begin initial pilot training. Then, they outright purchased a 747-8i from Lufthansa to serve as a permanent, full-time training asset. This ensured that crews were fully up to speed the very moment the VC-25 Bridge touched down in Maryland.
Now, when this aircraft finally rolled out onto the tarmac, it revealed a highly visible and heavily debated change. For generations, Air Force One has worn that classic robin's egg blue and white paint scheme, the one originally crafted by industrial designer Raymond Loewy for John F. Kennedy way back in the 1960s. The VC-25 Bridge, however, completely departs from that historic aesthetic.
This new livery, which was personally selected by Donald Trump during his first term, features a much darker navy blue on the ventral or bottom portion of the fuselage. It's accented with striking red and gold stripes running the entire length of the body, and it's topped off with a white upper section. Now, this specific design had been a bit of a political football, with the preceding Biden administration having previously sought to discard it, but ultimately the new jet arrived bearing the Trump-selected design.
Look, regardless of the debates surrounding its acquisition and aesthetics, the delivery of the VC-25B Bridge is an absolute engineering marvel. As L3 Harris CEO Christopher Kubicek pointed out, this project proved something huge. When standard, typically slow procurement methods fail, the U.S. Defense Industrial Base actually has the capacity to adapt, pivot, and move at maximum velocity to meet a critical mission demand.
So what can we actually learn from this entire story? Well, the VC-25B Bridge teaches us that aviation procurement doesn't always have to be a decade-long grind. By stripping away secondary requirements, utilizing existing airframes, and focusing strictly on core security and communication needs, a critical operational gap was closed in just 10 months. But it also leaves us with a really stark reminder. Rapid adaptation often forces us to navigate incredibly complex ethical boundaries and completely unprecedented security challenges.
Thanks for watching Air Flight Space. If you found this explainer informative, please leave a like and subscribe for more aviation investigations and air safety documentaries. We just explored how an unexpected foreign gift transformed into a highly secure presidential jet in record time. But what do you think about bypassing standard military procurement like this? Let us know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next explainer.